Welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 Tumwater City Council meeting. We will start off with roll call.
Councilmember Leetta Dahlhoff. Present. Councilmember Angela Jefferson.
Present.
Councilmember Joan Cathy.
Present.
Without.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Althauser.
Present.
Councilmember Peter Agave.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly Von Holtz.
Present.
And Mayor Debbie Sullivan.
I am present. Join me in our salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a couple of special items, and the first special item is a presentation about the Union Pioneer Cavalry Cemetery headstone restoration. And Fernanda from the Daughters of the American Revolution, which I'll disclose I am also a member of, will be doing a presentation about all of the amazing work they have been doing restoring those historic headstones. So go ahead.
Thank you, Libby. I'll also introduce my husband or have him introduce himself. Lou?
Lance Lee, and I'm with the George Rogers Clark chapter of Sons of the American Revolution, which is the guys club. Where are you? There you are. Thank you.
I introduced him because he's been a major part of this project also. So I'll get started right away and tell you about the work that we've been doing out at the Union Pioneer Cavalry Cemetery. We have loved it, and it has been a wonderful experience for us. One of the things that we do in DAR and SAR is we specialize in preservation and historic preservation in particular. I got started on the Masonic Memorial Cemetery a few years back, and we did about 1,232 cleanings of military markers there. And then we were done, and we needed another spot. So we came to Tumwater. Some of the members had gone and seen the cemetery, and it's the old historic cemetery. It needed a little bit of work. So there we went. Of course, we had to get permission, but we are focusing on bringing back to the community some of the pride that you have in your history. The importance of historic preservation can't be emphasized enough because it protects cemeteries from neglect and keeps that going into the future, where these cemeteries many of them are going underground. They're not even visible to people anymore. Organizations like DAR and SAR take a lead in doing some of this type of work. Not everyone thinks about our history, and we are legacy organizations. We are here because we are focusing on our ancestors. Here, I have started out by showing you some pictures of some of the work we've done. I say dig deep, and it didn't quite paginate right, but dig deep for rich rewards. And I say that because we don't even know when we start what we're going to find. People who come to volunteer don't know how they're going to feel, and it ends up that as we work, we get as much out of this as what we're putting into it. We use different tools, and there's one that came up, that's a probe. Out in your cemetery, you have hidden markers. You have burials that was a potter's field that there aren't even any stones for. We need to fix up some of these that are sinking, bring them up and put some aggregate under them so that they stay up above the surface instead of going underground. That one in the middle on the top, the seeds, it just looked like that was the marker. And then when we got to working on it, we find over here on the lower right that there was a whole nother base that had a place that they could put flowers and that sort of thing. So you never know what you're going to find. Now, this is taller than me, and I can actually take this pry bar and lift these up myself. Here we have one of our ladies carrying one, and one of the young men on the lower right there, he is one of the grandchildren of one of our volunteers. And the kids love to come out and work on this also. We use our things like, our buckets and aggregates. And here we have our typical kit for cleaning. And we started out cleaning these markers because they were terrible. Here's an example of, I say fix it and make it gleam, because on the left, it's before it's cleaned, and on the right is after it's been cleaned. In the middle, our historic preservationist, he lives in Bremerton, Mick Hersey. He is helping us fix that same marker because it was in 3 pieces. So when we got out there, we expected to just be doing cleanings. We got out there and we discovered, oh, some of these, they look like they're together, but they're not really together. They have come apart over time. Here you see, to do an effective marker cleaning, we have to use good techniques. So there, Janelle, one of our volunteers, she's cleaned the one on the right already, and she's used brushes and the D2, which doesn't damage the stone. It is pulling out the biologicals. So now, if you go out there today, you would see that that stone on the right is actually whiter than what it looks like in this picture after she just cleaned it. Because over time, it continues, the D2, to pull out more of the biologicals. On the left, that's exactly what that white stone looked like, was the one next to it. She's just getting started on it. You see to the right, another one. This is Judson, the Judson marker, and there's Lou and me and 2 of our volunteers there. And you can bring your dog out to work on these too. So that was a nice thing for our people to do. When we worked on Masonic, it was actually during COVID, and we were able to be out there because we could distance from each other. Here, you can see the difference in that same stone from before and after. The challenges here were great because, again, we thought we were just cleaning regular stones. Well, we get out there, and I think you know that your cemetery has a lot of sandstone in it. So the biologicals were deep into the stone. Sandstones are very soft. We would start to clean on them, and some of them would just start to crumble. So we would very quickly stop, not go any further, just spray them so that the weather could help it sink in and take out the biologicals. The first picture at the top was one I found because I didn't have the foresight to take my own picture. So I found that, I think might have been on your website actually. And then the second one shows what it looks like today after we've had the cleaning and the straightening, because we got into it and we began to realize that these stones were sinking. They were going below ground, they were tipping sideways, and many of them were broken. Here you see Mick helping us restore and raise some of these markers with his tripod. We had to locate some of these underground. One thing that we didn't realize, and that's the one in the lower right there was completely underground. We didn't realize that in the day and age when these markers were put there, it was a common practice to put footstones in. So they would have the large marker, Then 6 feet from the headstone would be the footstone. And so we think there's quite a few still out there buried. We are not quite done at your cemetery yet, but we've been finding some underground. The excavation has to be done using hand tools. You might see an occasional electric tool being used, but it's more to clean the putty off. And we leave that up to Mick, our historic preservationist, because he's very experienced using the tools to remove the epoxy and things that have deteriorated. And now we need to put some clean, better epoxy on there. That's another thing too. The historic preservationists that do the materials to do the cleanings and the repairs, they have gotten better over time. And so what was used back to repair some of these isn't as good as it is today. So we are using the more modern epoxies. And realignment was a big part of things. If you had been out there and noticed that there are rows, but the rows weren't very cleanly seen. They were, some of the stones had migrated, the heavy ones were sinking, tipping, a lot of that going on. So we decided we're not just going to clean these markers, we want to make the cemetery look like more like new, more like it did in the days when these markers were put there. Now, one of the things we have done that not many people have done is we brought in Cairns, the Cairns Human Remains Detection Dogs. They're out of Snohomish, and they train their dogs on very old remains. They use ancient remains to train them because all the dogs the new ones that detect new ones aren't able to detect the old ones. So they have to train them a little differently. So they like to use these old cemeteries to help with the detection of those older remains. So you see here, one of the dogs is above a flag where he had found that there is a burial under there. The second one, same thing. They're sat down where there's a burial under there. Now, we don't know if there's any stone, because this was a potter's field also back in the day. But there you see, we have Jodelle, who was so anxious to find one of these underground burial markers that when she found one, I happened to catch her look of delight. So I had to include it in here. She found this stone totally buried in an area where those dogs had found many, many hits. They'd had a lot of hits. One of the things about those hits is that because one of our challenges is there are a lot of moles out in the area, and those dogs can smell in those channels where all those moles are. So one of the things that the trainers told us was that there could be a burial within 6 feet, any circle within 6 feet of where the dog had a hit. So we have some work to do if we want to go check in all of those spots. They detected 25 spots that didn't have a marker attached to it. And Jodelle is thrilled. She was leaving that day, happened to see something a little shiny, thought it was glass. I'll pick up the glass. And it turned out to be this marker that she unburied. Now, we had a lot of unforeseen slowdowns, and one of them was when we went out there, you can see all those great big markers, but you don't notice all the little tiny ones. And so there are a lot of small markers that took up quite a bit of time because we also have to raise them. They're often the ones that are buried further down and can't be seen. Then here we have the broken ones. That's Lou working with the historic preservationist Mick, and they are working on that marker, which we have epoxied twice, and it can't be it's not holding. So Mick's coming back this summer and we'll be making a permanent frame for it so that it can remain. And then here is the Cornells. So when you go out there, you'll see the Cornells. It's a whole family. And let me move on. And there's Lou working on it. So one of the things that we had to contend with was very soft ground. And we're trying to be safe out there. We've signed our waivers for you all because we don't, we know we're not going to, that's not our intent ever to cause any problems. So we're trying to be very careful while we do some of this work. Now, that huge statue, the huge monument is in 3 different pieces. They're not attached. And so Mick is going to be coming out and we'll be using a hoist to try to lift some of those parts so that we can get them back so that somebody won't accidentally be hurt out there, because you don't dare lean against some of these too hard because they're thousands and thousands of pounds. On the bottom, right next to that Beyond Broken and Beyond Dirty, you see the bottom of the statue that, I say statue, but monument that he's working on. It is so full of moss. And that was one of the things that we hadn't, when we did Masonic, they had moss, but they didn't have moss like you have moss out there. And here, I think you recognize that person speaking. She spoke at our first dedication for the cleaning. One of the good things about working on a cemetery is the community impact it has, and it brings back pride and preserving your heritage, and the community gets engaged. And you can see here, I think visible is around 70 people, but we had that day 200 people show up throughout the day. And Debbie was talking about the cemetery there, and we had a few other people there. The man in the lower right corner is Rutledge, the one from Rutledge Farms. And he has a whole bunch of relatives out there. So that in itself has been a rewarding thing for us to meet some of the people in your community. This is our group that did what we called Talking Headstones, and that was a way of educating and pulling in the community, which is on the left is our DAR, then we have the SAR in the middle, and then to the right, you see a young man who's a descendant of the Bushes, and next to him is a friend, and I think he worked for you all, because he rescued an actual seed from the butternut tree that George Bush had planted. And now it's about 3 feet tall, and it's out there, and he came, and when we did our talks for the community about different people buried in that cemetery, he talked about the butternut tree, which was very interesting. And then, of course, you see Brianna on the right and with some of your people. She was a big help during this whole time. So now we have to look ahead to the future. And here we see 2 of the people that are doing Ann Olson. I don't know if many of you know Ann. But Anne played one of Sarah Lang out there, and she was great. She was she had a hanky. Sarah Lang died of consumption. She had tuberculosis, and she would cough into her handkerchief, and she had red and everything. I mean, it was just cute. But she did a great job. And then below that, we have Lou, who was talking about the Bordeaux, which is a family. Lou, were they all food poison. Yeah, the mother had cooked something and it food poisoned the whole family. So there's a couple that lived, but most of them died. So Lou talked about that family. And one of the things we want to do is not just go in and clean, but also preserve for the future. And the Talking Headstones was part of an educational outreach to the community. And we may do another one, we may not, But one of the things we have to think about is what happens ongoing when we have to leave. Fortunately, this cemetery has you all because you're responsible, and not every cemetery has that. We would love to continue, but as you can tell, at our age, that cemetery will be here long after we're gone, and it was here long before we came. So, having ownership by the city is a wonderful thing. And we acknowledge our supporters because in this time period, 32 volunteers worked on this cemetery. They will continue and come back this summer because we've got more work to do. We also want to thank people who donated to us because I didn't get any grant for this. Your city has helped, and that was wonderful because they provided the aggregate, the water buffalo. We'll see a picture of some of that in a minute because we couldn't have cleaned without water, and there's no running water at the cemetery. Mills and Mills said we could use their water, but that would have been a little tough for all of us to carry back and forth from Mills and Mills next door. And then I want to recognize Mick Hersey because Mick has gotten all kinds of awards for his work in cemeteries across the state. He lives in Bremerton. He knows the right way to do work on these cemeteries, and it's been wonderful that we had him. Mills and Mills was great. They said, if you need help, let us know. And so I gave him a call when we had a couple of these that needed a boost from a little heavier equipment than that little tripod we had. And so here, Mick came just so that he could help put the straps in the proper places so we could move these. Down below is Mills and Mills again. They've done a tour there, what they call a ghost tour, but it's not really a ghost tour. They do exactly what we do, which is they talk about people in that community. And so we shared this year. They did one weekend or 2 days, I think, and we did the next weekend. And they weren't territorial at all. They didn't mind us doing that. It was nice to experience that with the community. And then nothing could have been done without the approval and the trust of the city of Tumwater. So we met with your folks before we ever started this. And Chuck Denny was there, and some of the other folks, and Brianna. We met and we talked about what we would use, how we would go about our process. And in the bottom corner there you see that water buffalo down there, along with a couple of piles. That's the second time we had to get gravel because we had to raise practically every one of these. Am I going over my time here? Am I over? Okay, good, because this is the end. So anyway, we thank you for allowing us to do that and appreciate, and we'll see you again.
I can't express how fortunate we are that you have been doing this. There's just no way we can thank you enough. So,
Well,
thank
one
you.
of the things I was going to talk about, so maybe I'll just add it in here, is that I said the feelings that we get from doing this, I never dreamed when I started this how it would make me feel and how appreciative it would make me of my heritage and having the opportunity to do this. Yes.
Great.
So thank you.
So before you go, I just want, this is just a really super small token of thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
But we'll take a
Yes.
hug to my sister.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
So I just have to say, when they offered to do this, I knew it was going to be a huge task, but I was shocked at how much they did and still are continuing to do. So I really appreciate everything they've done. So our next item is the community center outreach process, and Director Chuck Denny will be presenting.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And just tagging on to that, the enthusiasm and the passion that they have for cleaning headstones is just off the charts. They really enjoy what they do, and they really do a lot of work. So, we put very little money into that cemetery between having people maintain it and Mills and Mills mowing the grass for us because we don't have the staff or the equipment to do cemeteries. It's great to have all those partnerships and have it look the way it does today, because when you drive by today, it's night and day from what it was last year. It really stands out. So lots of stories to tell there and lots of opportunities for things we can do. Shifting gears to community center. I came to you in September, late September, with our consultants, Barker Rinker, CCAT, and we gave you an update on what was going on with the community center project, the community center design. And part of that presentation included trying to decide siting for the community center and where it was going to go. And at that point, we had really narrowed it down to two sites. One that was at the former DOT headquarters site on Capitol Boulevard, and the other was a newer site that had come to our attention and been proposed by the Port of Olympia out on port property just off of Kimmy Street. That was a site that hadn't gone through a public process. We really hadn't talked about it much in public before, but it had some positives, both size-wise and financially. So it was a site that we really wanted to consider. But at that September meeting, we didn't have enough information. We didn't have enough information to provide to you to be able to move that forward and make a decision on where the community center should go. So we're continuing to evaluate those two sites. So Capitol Boulevard, about 10 acres, currently housing the abandoned DOT buildings, a site that needs to be cleaned up. It has a lot of great attributes, and location being probably the biggest one, very central in town. The other site is twice as big, 20 acres off Kimmy Street. It also has obviously pros and cons. It's totally undeveloped. It would require significant frontage improvements and development, things like that. But it also provides us with a 10-acre community center site with the building and parking and storm and all the things associated with development. It would leave us with an additional 10 acres of green space, open space, potentially park space, and the ability to preserve some of the tree canopy that's out there now. And I know the neighbors are very concerned with that. So we're continuing down the path to evaluate the two sites and really come up with more of a comprehensive list of pros and cons and what each one of those will really cost and what's involved in developing them, so that we can come back to you and have a more developed plan to enable you to make a decision. Also, part of that is getting community input, which is something we haven't done on the site on Kimmy. So we've come up with a schedule to talk with the public about how they feel about one site versus the other and really educate them on the pros and cons, and then get community input on what people think. So we came up with a schedule. We're going to talk with the Parks Commission on January 21st at their meeting. The next week, January 29th, we're going to hold a meeting of our Community Center Steering Committee, which is, there's a few Parks Board members, a council member, and a variety of community members that are interested in the community center, and we'll get their input on the pros and cons of both sites. And then on February 4th, we'll hold a public open house, same deal, one more time, and talk to the community about the pros and cons and hear what the residents of Tumwater have to say. And then after that, we'll come back to you and say, here's what we've done, here's what we've heard, and provide you with that information and maybe be able to make a decision on siting from there. So tonight, I just wanted to come to you with that update and tell you how that's moving forward and get any input or answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Councilmember Swarthout.
So the contract with the people that we're working with just continues?
Yes.
Do we have to pay? How does that work?
Well,
far as,
as
like the
we're not
payment is-
paying more at this point, but as we continue to move forward, if we continue to add things to their work plan, there will be adjustments to that.
'Cause I was wondering when it started and when the contract ended with them.
Yeah,
It
we're
seems
just
like we've been at this for a while, so I wasn't sure when that ended, so.
yeah, we're just extending. They're just waiting for us to call and say, okay, we're ready to go.
For the
So they're in a
next step.
holding pattern right now until we decide more information on the site.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. So you'll be hearing much more about this in the future.
Yep. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
You bet. All right, so we are at the public comment portion, and City Administrator Parks is getting the list. First of all, do we have anybody signed up online?
We do not.
Okay. Cindy Farr, if you can come to the podium and state your name for the record. And we have a clock and 3 minutes. First, I forgot a portion of this before you get started. So we're going to be starting the public comment portion, and it's limited to 3 minutes, and and this is not in relation to our public hearing that we'll be having later. So this will be a different topic than that. So, all right, go ahead.
Mayor Sullivan and council members, my name's Cindy Farr. It's Cindy Sullins Farr. And I've lived in Tumwater since 1991. We live over in Gold Creek. Tumwater has prided itself in being a walkable community, which I have loved thoroughly. And a few years ago, spent a lot of time walking and through the area of Toyota and Little Rock. Well, the reason I'm here tonight is for a number of years, as Tumwater has developed, the changes we've seen have created some very serious danger areas along Little Rock, particularly at the roundabouts. Over by the Toyota, there's nice lighting. You push the button, it lights up everything that there's somebody in the walkway. Well, the ones I have concerns are now with all the new development by Fred Meyer, and I can't remember the name of that development. And specifically, and with the middle school right there, and specifically Israel 70th and Little Rock. We now have a trading post. We have new apartments going in, which is going to be a lot of kids. And we have also, there's storage units in there as well. That area has already become extremely busy because when the work was going on Israel and Capitol, a lot of people used Little Rock. And now they try to use Little Rock because that's where a lot of the services are now. I'll talk specifically about the roundabout here. I had 2 close calls. One was as a walker, and I had a vest on. Somebody wasn't paying attention. I was watching, and he turned out fairly close, and I was lucky to have gotten across the rest of the way. The next thing that happens, and I've seen it more than once, but it's happened once to me, if people are coming around the roundabout to go over to 70th, and you see a walker and you stop for a walker, the person who is coming around the corner doesn't know you're there. And so I almost got hit and would have hit a walker. And I've seen that happen a number of times. When you put those lights on, then people should be aware there's somebody in that circle. So I'm just hoping, I know there's impact fees that come with development. I also understand, and if I'm incorrect, let me know, that that has to go through a budget cycle and through the capital budget to add things, but we need some help over on that corner. You can't hardly get out. Well, when I was coming here tonight, I must have waited, I'm not kidding, 5 minutes to get across on the roundabout because of all the traffic, and it was busier time. Anyway, anything that we can look at helping, or we've got 2 high schools too, within a mile to a mile and a half, which means we've got lots of kids going back and forth there, including my grandchildren. Thanks a lot.
Great, thank you. Mark, I'm not sure I can pronounce your, sorry, I don't want to mess up your last name.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Mark Kitabayashi. I'm the current president for Thurston County Realtors Association. And I'm here to actually thank the city of Tumwater and your staff. In November 8th, we held a home buyer expo, regional home buyer expo at the Lacey Community Center. And City of Tumwater was a participant of that and having a booth there as well. This was the first attempt that I could think of. I've been living here in this region for over 30 years. And we did that with the help of the multi-jurisdictional help, including Tumwater, Lacey, Olympia, and Thurston County, and even Department of Commerce. I think we had a very successful event because it was a very targeted event where we invited potential home buyers. And we had 80 participants that came, went through the expo, the booth, and also the first-time home buyer seminar. So 80 of the serious buyers that considering buying a home. I think we felt that was very successful. And we'd like to continue to do that. And our goal is to do this on an annual basis as well. And first of all, we want to thank you for your participation this year, for helping us out as well. And I think that with all of us working together, I think there's a lot more that we could accomplish on home buyer side. We talk a lot about rental side in the many jurisdictions and restrictions, but a lot of times we don't talk about home buyers. Little stats recently, the median home price for Thurston County is right now at $539,000. In 2019, the median price was $340,000. That's right before COVID. Even year to year, this year, we had a 4.3% increase in the price. So it is a big jump, and it's becoming harder and harder to people to buy. And first time nationally, we reached the median age of a first-time home buyer to be 40 years old. Most of us can remember buying homes in the 20s or in the early 30s, but now it's 40 years old. So I know the American dream of home ownership is a little bit harder, but I think that we working together, I think we truly believe that we could still help that with these buyer seminars, that there's a lot of the resources that's available that's including, and we had a nonprofit tables, we had a lenders, and we had all kinds of people was there to help the first-time home buyer to do it. So I truly believe that we as a Realtors Association, we still believe in American dream of home ownership. And I think working together with the multi-jurisdiction city of Tumwater, I think the citizens of Tumwater and working together, I think we could still offer an American dream of home ownership to your city of Tumwater and the Americans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that is all of the names on the list for the public comment. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to make public comment at this time? All right. Now we will go ahead and move to the consent calendar. And do I hear a motion to approve the consent?
I move that we
calendar?
approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Jefferson and seconded by Councilmember Von Holtz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. With that, we approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of November 18th. Payment vouchers, service provider agreement with Fur and Piers for the vehicle miles traveled gap analysis. Service provider agreement with Carlello Engineering for the 2025 sanitary sewer comprehensive plan update, and tech service agreement with King County for regional collaboration for better resilience outcome in the Puget Sound Basin. So next item is public hearing, and I believe Brandon is going to present on this.
Do have a presentation coming up, but in the meantime, thank you, Mayor Sullivan and council members. I am here today for two items. First one is resolution number R 2025-020, which is the fourth amendment to the Craft District Development Agreement. I'll start by saying this is just another term extension. I don't think we anticipated being here for a fourth one, but I'll talk a little bit about what's happened later. So this should be pretty quick. If I can learn how to use the clicker. There we go. So just a quick refresher, the Craft District Development is located on, it's a little bit over 5.5 acres near Capitol Boulevard and E Street, or also Tumwater Valley Drive. The development is centered on SPSCC's craft brewing and distilling program, and the identity of the district is centered on craft brewing, cider, and distilling. And I would say that there's a heavy focus on restaurants now as well. Not only the ones that are out there now, but there's some more coming. There is, like I said, restaurants, retail, office space, event space, and a planned 1,000-seat amphitheater. So real quick update on progress to date. The first two major items I'm actually missing in the complete section, and that is they have completed all of the road improvements, and that was realignment of Tumwater Valley Drive and then all of the work that's on Capitol Boulevard. The other major infrastructure improvement was extending water main to the site. So both of those are complete. And then in addition to that, the SPSCC Craft Brewing and Distilling Program building has been up for several years. The market building has now been up for a couple years. There's a few food trucks out there consistently. There's a credit union and restaurant shared building out there. And then in progress, I'm actually missing another one here. It was too late for me to update the PowerPoint, but in progress right now, they're actually constructing a mixed building that's going to have more retail and more restaurant in it. I think there's maybe 8 separate businesses in there. Don't quote me on it. And then also currently we're working on a shared parking agreement that is detailed a little bit in the development agreement. And then remaining would be at some point a permanent amphitheater is planned still. We would have an amphitheater agreement, and that's for city use of the amphitheater for certain days in a year. It would essentially block out times for us. There is still trail construction to be completed, and that will occur if and when they develop what I'm calling Lot 4. Unfortunately, there's 2 Lot 4s, but since you didn't know that before, I didn't need to tell you. But this particular Lot 4 is a residential development south of Tumwater Valley Drive. So when that occurs, that's when the development agreement triggers construction of the trail. And then there's also the remainder of the commercial lots. So just real quick, just to kind of mention why the city is involved. The mechanism, the main mechanism, at least how we're participating in the development agreement from a financial means, is the public infrastructure that has been done. It was cost prohibitive for the city to undertake it and for the developer to undertake it, but as a team, it was a little bit more doable, and because of that, we have infrastructure that we needed earlier than we would have been able to. As far as overall benefit to the city, it really is hard to quantify all of the benefits because there's social, economic. It's not just the tax revenue that we're receiving already, but there is a place for our residents to go. We're drawing in people. And then the biggest one is sort of the attention that it's bringing back to and the energy that it's bringing back to redevelopment of the brewery. So those are some of the biggest impacts and why the city got involved in the first place. Okay, so just to make it really, I'm going to go really fast on that one. It's gone now. I got it. Maybe. There we go.
There we go.
So real quick, I'll just say First, Third, and Fourth Amendments are all the same. They're term extensions. They're all for essentially the same reasons. Market conditions changed. This particular development started pre-COVID. Market was great for this type of development. And then it started to go downhill in 2019, and then everything just fell off a cliff after that. And it hasn't really picked up the way that it was before yet. And so this is really just another term extension because of market conditions. They haven't been able to develop as quickly as they'd like to. The Second Amendment did have some meat to it, I guess I'll say. We did make some changes to conditions in the development agreement, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So Fourth Amendment, still just another term extension. And with that, that's actually all that I have. So if you don't have any questions, we could go into the public hearing, or I can answer them before or after.
All right. Is there a sign-up sheet for public hearing? All right. So did we have anyone registered online for that? I will, though, open up for public testimony for the public hearing. So at this time, we'll take public testimony, and unfortunately, we do not have anyone signed up. So with that, we will go ahead and close the public comment portion of our public hearing. And with that, I will ask council members if they would like to move forward with this extension. Any discussion, or do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that the city council adopt resolution number R 2025-020 Craft District Development Agreement Amendment number 4.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Swarthout, seconded by Councilmember Agabi. Any discussion on the motion? All right, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Yep.
And now we will be moving to council considerations. The first item is ordinance number 2025-015, eminent domain for the X Street, and we have Brandon again. It's going to be your night tonight, isn't it?
Wow, this is the last
This
one.
is the last one. Yeah.
And I know how to use the clicker now. This one's longer. I apologize. So this next item is ordinance number 2025-015, and it's eminent domain authorization for the X Street roundabout. And we are recommending adoption of the ordinance, and I'll have the formal request at the end of the presentation. So real quick, before I go into detail on the condemnation authorization, I'm going to go over a few of the project elements. So this is actually the fourth project that has come out of the Capitol Boulevard Corridor Plan, and that was a really extensive planning effort that we went through between 2013 and 2017. It included a ton of public engagement, just an astronomical amount. And the reason that I know this is I wrote a grant application for it, and it was astounding. So between 2013 and 2017, there was a lot of public engagement, not just with the general public, but one-on-ones with the property owners that were impacted or who wanted a say in what the corridor would look like. So again, this is the fourth project. The first one was the feasibility study. The second project was the I-5 Trosper Road Capitol Boulevard reconfiguration. And then the third was a design-only project. We received a grant to design the remaining projects out of the corridor plan to a level that puts us in a good place to get grant funding. So the purpose of the project is to relieve congestion. Wow, I just got sounding a lot better there. That was cool. The purpose of the project is to relieve congestion, improve safety, provide multimodal improvements, and help revitalize the corridor. Total project cost is approximately $6.8 million, and we have received about $5.4 million in grant funding through Thurston Regional Planning Council, and that's 5 separate grants over a period of a couple of years, actually. So we were very successful on this one. and appreciate the support from TRPC. I have a schedule shown on there, and as you can see, we are currently planning for construction starting in 2026 and wrapping up in 2027. And again, planning efforts started almost 13 years ago at this point. This slide, I didn't have this at committee. I added it after seeing some comments and questions that came after the committee presentation, just to help kind of clarify. You know, I realized that I was missing some information that would help. And so two main things I want to talk about is why do we choose roundabouts? And then why are we pursuing the X Street roundabout at this time? So the reason we choose roundabouts over signals in general in certain circumstances, the main ones are they are safer by quite a bit. They are better for multimodal travel. They're more cost effective for long-term maintenance. They always cost a lot more initially because it does require a little bit more property at the intersections themselves. But I'll talk about in a little bit, it requires less through the rest of the corridor. But, and then we don't have to have signal techs out there maintaining it. So overall maintenance is easier for the long term. And then, I forget which which benefits I already mentioned. Oh,
Councilmember Dolhoff has a question.
yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. Braden, as you're talking about something, thinking, is there a way to measure the reduction of greenhouse gases, right? Like cars idling versus constant flow? Is that ever something like we thought about like measuring?
So we wouldn't measure it. That is a data point that I assume has been measured for, you know, typical similar capacity intersections in comparison. And I could do some
Right.
research and get back to you on it.
It'd just be interesting, like how would you calculate that, right?
It's beyond me.
That's why I'm asking you, Brandon, because I'm not either. Yeah, I was just thinking, Alyssa, I mean, that could be something, I'm channeling Kelly Von Holtz right now about expectations. And I've been getting more and more comments about roundabouts, especially this one, like the people who hate roundabouts, right? And the examples I've given are still not connecting. I was like, I wonder if I could try like reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, right? Because
Yeah.
just something I was just thinking about.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brendan.
The one typical benefit or general benefit to roundabouts is that for most configurations you can get higher throughput, or they're better for capacity. You can get more vehicles through a roundabout than you can through a signal. The honest truth is the highest capacity intersection doesn't have a roundabout. You just ignore the lower streets, the lower traffic streets, and just make them wait longer. It's not very palatable because, I mean, as you can imagine, if you're sitting for too long on some of these side streets, you're not going to be too happy about it. So the reason that roundabouts rose to the top on Capitol Boulevard, though, going through the planning efforts, is one of the main desires was multimodal options. And so bike lanes was huge. And in order to get bike lanes, we either had to widen the roadway, move the sidewalks out further, which would mean that we would be acquiring property from every single piece of property that's on Capitol Boulevard. So every single one of those, even not near the intersections, we would be acquiring property. And unfortunately, it is not turning out well on the screen, but what I tried to do on this, and the corridor does go further, you can see, but I wanted to get the cross sections on here, and you can't see them anyways because it's too small. But if you can see the little green stars, those are properties that I know for certain that the buildings were saved because we went with roundabouts. And then the red ones are ones that ultimately, you know, a building did end up being lost because of the roundabout that would have been able to stay if it were signalized intersection. So going through the planning efforts, one of the key things was we and the public wanted as little impact on the properties along Capitol Boulevard as possible. The reason that we can get away with acquiring less property using roundabouts is we can get rid of the left turn lane. You can't get rid of the left turn lane if you have a signalized intersection. By getting rid of the left turn lane, we repurpose that to the bike lanes and we don't have to move the curb out. So ultimately, there is a little bit more property required at the roundabouts, but overall along the corridor, it is far less impact on property owners. And then why X Street? If I'm being completely honest with you, so a lot of what I've heard is that X Street isn't that busy. Why wouldn't we go for one of the intersections that has more traffic? That's a true statement. X Street isn't all that busy. It was really just about strategizing funding sources. For the other two roundabouts that will remain, I've already sort of determined which grants we're going to go after. Two of them we had been very successful at when we applied for grants on this, and they tried to distribute the money amongst agencies, and we really didn't stand a chance. And so, as an example, the state's Ped and Bike program and Safe Routes to School programs, we're definitely going after those for the Dennis Street roundabout. And so on this particular one, I knew that we were not going to be successful at those two grant programs, so I moved to the next most expensive roundabout. And here we are. In the T Street roundabout, which is the only one remaining, we still don't fully understand what's going to happen with the former DOT site. And honestly, at the time, the city, I don't think had much interest in it. So that one was getting delayed until some form of development happens. Okay, so now the actual ordinance, just a little bit about it. I will start off by saying, in general, if you accept federal funding for a transportation project, it is expected that you will pursue eminent domain if you need to acquire the property rights. So ultimately, if as an agency, we do not want to go through eminent domain processes, we shouldn't be applying for most federal grants. Now, this ordinance is actually considered the final action by council, which authorizes condemnation or authorizes acquiring the properties by condemnation. However, it doesn't mean that we're going to stop negotiations. We're actually going to, I fully anticipate that we would be able to get these property rights before actually having to go to court, but we do need to be ready due to project timeline. Right now, our sort of deadline in order to move to the construction phase is June of this coming year. Okay, just a little bit of information on condemnation and relocation. They generally have sort of a bad reputation. They sound really bad. I'm not going to say that it's not a nuisance if you're a property owner and an agency comes and says, we need to take some or all of your property from you. I understand that would be a nuisance. However, because we are an agency acquiring these properties, it does invoke a lot of protections for the property owners through the Uniform Relocation Act and RCW. We actually, not only do we get an appraisal from a certified appraiser that's approved by the state and the federal government, we then get a review of that appraisal from a different appraiser. So we're confident that fair market value is what's determined. We cannot offer any less than fair market value. We go through extensive negotiation processes. We actually hire right-of-way agents because, we're engineers, we're not really right-of-way folks. But we do hire professional right-of-way agents, and they help guide us and the property owners through the whole process. We'll pay a certain allowance for attorney's fees for these property owners to get their own independent review of some of these documents. If there are any damages to the site, if we are having to remove a decorative rock or any square feet of pavement, or if the acquisition causes it to where their site needs to be reoriented a little bit, we pay for that. It actually eliminates market risk. And so we can't offer any less than fair market value. And so when we make that offer, fair market value, that sets the bare minimum. If there's a crash in the market, they don't have to worry about their value going down because they're not going to get paid any less than what we offered when it was high. And it goes the other way too. If the market goes way up, we have to reappraise and offer them that new higher amount. So they're pretty much guaranteed to get the top of the market within some range because we're not getting a new appraisal every week. And then some of the acquisitions do go to the extent of full relocation when we need to get the full property. And that's obviously where it would be the largest nuisance. When it reaches that point, we actually provide advisory assistance. Our agents walk them through the process, help them sign paperwork, help them figure out how to hire somebody to independently represent them to do review. Our right-of-way agents go and find suitable relocation sites. They do research. They have to be available so that it can't just be, this is about what they cost in the market. It is, here's a place you can go to right now if you want. Any of their lost business items, we help pay for moving them. We even help pay for movers' insurance. We help pay for if they want to have somebody supervise the move, if they want to have any of their staff who have technical knowledge of any particular equipment, that gets paid for. So ultimately,
Councilmember Jefferson has a question.
Yes, Brandon. Is there anyone who is resistant to our offer right now?
we haven't made any formal offers to anybody.
Mhm.
It's completely different and a lot more impactful, but I mean, typically, as an example, if you go to buy a used car,
Mhm.
there's always some resistance on either end. But it's not often that we have like full resistance. There's always negotiations, but right now, we're just at the communication, getting prepared so that they know
Okay.
what's coming stage.
So we're not forcing this on anyone yet.
No.
Okay.
And then it goes beyond just helping them move. We also help them reestablish at their new location. So if there needs to be any renovation work, if there needs to be new flooring, painting, we pay for all that. If, any new business cards or new signage, we pay for that, up to $200,000. So the goal is we want to get them into a place that is at least equivalent, no worse than what it is now, and have it to where they move out there with no monetary impact. It doesn't mean it'll always happen that way, but that is the goal. And we want to help them through the whole process because, if it happened to me, I wouldn't know what paperwork I'm looking at. I wouldn't know who to call. So we try to make it as easy as possible. So here are the actual acquisition areas for this project. They are all non-residential. They're all businesses. There is only one full take, and it is that larger rectangle that you see there. So that'll be, ultimately, we will be helping relocate that business. The remainder are mostly strip acquisition, so the frontage, where the sidewalk and everything is. Sorry, one second. I almost made it. Most of the areas that are strip acquisitions aren't really used by the businesses. They're usually kind of like that dead space in between buildings and sidewalks. So a lot of this isn't very impactful. The two properties that are on the west side of Capitol Boulevard, those are where their largest impacts are. So obviously the full relocation, that's a pretty big deal. The one on the south, which if you're familiar where it is, it's Town and Country. We don't need a lot of property, but the property that we do need and where we need to restrict their access is their only customer parking. And so that's an example of where we're going to be helping reconfigure the site. So we actually come up with a new site layout that works for them, and we have a contractor give us a quote, and then we offer that as damages to the property owner so that they can pay a contractor to come in and do the work, reconfigure the site. And both of those property owners, my initial contact with them was between 4 and 5 years ago. So we've talked about this. There were the greatest impacts, so they knew it was coming, and then they actually knew about it 12 years ago. So typical property acquisition process, we write a letter, inform the property owner, we get an appraisal, review appraisal, then we make the formal offer, go through the negotiations, and then all things go well, we reach a deal and we start construction. When we can't come to an agreement through negotiations is where eminent domain comes in. And normally we wouldn't be thinking about that until after we had started negotiations. We are pushing that forward a little bit right now. And that's just about the construction schedule. It's not uncommon at all when you have complex projects. In fact, we have a couple neighbors here who do it in this manner pretty much every project. We generally don't, but this is a project where we do have a very tight timeline. And so on the right, that kind of details, it's a very high level detail of the eminent domain process, and we are here for the final action. And that is all I've got. So I do have the recommended action at the bottom, but I'm ready for any questions.
Any questions? Councilmember Von Holtz?
Thank you, Brandon. Other than the full take, the other property owners who will have their frontage affected, I'm guessing some of those businesses during construction will have, it'll be difficult to pull into park, maybe. Do we do anything for that portion of it, for estimated loss of business, because people don't want to try to pull in there, or it looks messy, or I'm not sure if it's open during construction? Do we do signage, or what do we offer those property owners?
So really the only assistance we can do in that is that we make sure that there is access to the businesses.
Okay.
You know, we work hand in hand with the contractors. We have an inspector on site full time. We have a construction manager working with them. We actually have a team that works with them. And so one of our biggest priorities is always maintaining access to all the properties. And so it's really going to be about making sure that people can get there. We will have some form of communication, you know, making sure that people know that the businesses are still open. We do not compensate for assumed or guesstimated losses in business. One of the things with owning a business anywhere is that, you know, eventually the streets need maintained.
Sure.
Eventually we do have to address capacity. It is one of those things that's unfortunate, but it does have to happen. And that's standard practice for agencies. Maybe 99% of agencies.
Any other questions? All right. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance number 02025-015, eminent domain of X-Ray X Street.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Jefferson, seconded by Councilmember Von Holtz. Any discussion on the motion? With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is ordinance number 2025-009, the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Amendments. And we have Brad. Oh, no, we don't have Brad.
Brad, you've changed.
I am so sorry. I had Brad on my other thing. So sorry, Dean.
That's all right. Thank you, Mayor.
I
and
was
good
wondering
evening,
why you were
council
sitting there.
members.
Okay.
For-
He's sending you out more often, isn't he?
I think so. I think I'm coming into my own, and hopefully you'll see me a lot more often. And you know, he has a new gig now, so
Yeah.
yeah. So good evening. We have a presentation. So as they're pulling it up, I'll just introduce myself. For the record, I'm Dana Bowers. I'm an associate planner at City of Tumwater. You know me, but you know we have this thing that we do. So this evening, we're going to be discussing the ordinance number 2025-009, which is a comprehensive plan amendments for 2025. So this amendment includes the capital facilities plan, and we're seeking a motion to adopt the ordinance. So we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to summarize and review the adoption process with you, that we want to present the Planning Commission recommendation and recommend adoption of the ordinance. So the Capital Facilities Plan coordinates resources over the next 6 years to complete high priority projects such as road improvements, like Brandon was just talking about, sidewalk and bike lane installations, well drilling, stormwater system improvements, and new connections to our sanitary sewer provider, for example, just to give you some ideas about what this all is about. So the plan is updated biannually. Oh, just a second. Yeah, it's updated biannually, and it's updated through a comprehensive plan amendment process. The council suspended comprehensive plan amendments through 2022 to the years 2022 to 2025, so that we could focus on comprehensive plan updates for the periodic update cycle. And this amendment, however, is allowed. So even though it's suspended through 2025, this is an allowed amendment because it is city-sponsored and it's a required element of the comprehensive plan. So this year we have 2 comprehensive plan items moving forward for your review. So we wanted to be really clear about that. The first is the comprehensive plan amendments. And then at other times, these comprehensive plan amendments include all annual amendments to the comprehensive plan. So normally there are a few items in this one review because it can only happen once a year. This time, we're only amending the capital facilities plan. Here are the 2 items. So we have, oh, sorry, here's a review. My apologies. So we're, just to get myself clear. So we're also moving forward to update an item for the concert. So I mentioned 2 things. So we're updating the comprehensive plan amendments. We're also moving forward an item to update the comprehensive plan itself. So that's the periodic update process. So it's 2 things happening at the same time that are very, very similar and have very similar names, just to make everything very confusing. So I want to clear this up. This is comprehensive plan amendments that happen every year, except for we're only doing one little thing this year. And comprehensive plan updates is the giant packet that you are about to receive. All right? Yay. So just making sure that you have that kind of background and understand these 2 items. So, okay, I think we'll move on. So the joint work session that you'll have for the comprehensive plan update is going to be happening December 9th, so next week, just to prepare you for that. So we are going to talk about the capital facilities plan a little bit more. So this is a 6-year plan, and it's been under extensive review from both the Planning Commission, the Public Works Committee, and the General Government Committee. So all 3 committees have reviewed it, and they had clarifying questions, but only non-substantive suggestions were made in those areas. So we want to make sure that you understand the criteria that we have in our Tumwater Code of Municipal Code, not Code of Amendments, Tumwater Municipal Code. So we have in 1860 025B 4 requirements, and I just want to touch on these to let you know that the ordinance or the update, the amendment meets the requirements. The proposed amendments, it conforms with the Growth Management Act. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, the proposed amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan, Thurston County countywide planning policies, and related plans. Number 3, it doesn't. This criteria doesn't apply to the amendment because it doesn't involve a change in land use. And criteria 4 doesn't apply because the community-related uses are anticipated in the comp plan through lands for public purposes and transportation chapters. So that will happen with the update. All right, so Planning Commission recommended to adopt ordinance number 2025-025 2025-009. And we're bringing it forward for you tonight. The General Government Committee also reviewed the item at their November 12th, 2025 meeting and placed it on the council's consent calendar for tonight's meeting. In conclusion, we're requesting action to adopt ordinance number 2025-009, the comprehensive plan amendments, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions? I think probably most of the council have probably gone through this.
Yeah, I've seen this a lot.
Actually, I think I've seen part of it, but I did have a question.
Okay.
There's been some questions about like the numbers on some of them when you're estimating. So are these like placeholders as far as when we're doing an estimate? So for example, the fire station improvements. So it's estimated at $5.1 million. And so those are estimates, right? Until we actually go to bid and actually do the designs and things like that, that we don't, this is just a placeholder at this point. Isn't that correct?
More or less a placeholder, but maybe Brandon wants to talk about the.
Do you want to come to the?
So yes, these are just planning level estimates. Most of the time, if it's a new project that's in the CFP, such as T2, the fire station that you talked about, when it's put in there, what it's going to look like isn't really known. It's
Okay.
just,
I just want to clarify that
Yeah.
because it's like East Street and just want to be sure that these are just placeholder numbers when the public is looking at this, that, you know, it may take a different form and could be maybe more expensive and
definitely. Some of these are going to be quite a bit more expensive, and hopefully some of them will do the opposite.
okay, all right, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Is anybody willing to make the motion?
Make motion.
Okay, Councilmember Althauser.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we adopt ordinance number O 2025-009, 2025 comprehensive plan amendments.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Althauser, seconded by Councilmember Von Holtz. Any discussion on the motion? With that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
See you in a week.
Great. Next item is the quarterly budget update. And Troy Niemeyer, our finance director, will be presenting. You have all kinds of presentations tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I'm Troy Niemeyer, Finance Director, and this will be your quarterly update and the last quarterly budget update for 2025. All right, so like usual, we'll start by jumping right in and talking about sales tax. This is, as I was kind of practicing this, sorry, this is getting a little numbery now that we're so far into the year. But if we look, well, down the 2025 column, last time we met was in September, and we talked about August data. August was a great month for sales tax collections, over $1 million, a 22% increase. And that came after a pretty choppy start to the year where we're kind of up and down every month. It's kind of stabilized. We had a good September, just a little teeny decrease there. A great October with a 10.5% increase, and a pretty solid November with a 3.8% increase. That puts us year over year at a 2.55% increase so far for this year. Given the volatility, the uncertainties in the economy, I'm pretty happy with that. This just shows it graphically, and just wanted to remind you that within this year, we had the highest month of sales tax collections in August. That was the highest single month in 3 years. We also had the lowest single month in 3 years back in April. So kind of unusual to have both of those in 1 year. And it looks a little messier when you layer some more years over that. But, you know, those kind of ups and downs, like in the last slide, that's kind of normal. They were just a little more extreme this year. So now moving away from the month over month basis and to the budget to actual, the bottom number is the sales tax. We are 91% through the year. We're 85, almost 86% collected. So we are running about 5.7% behind on the budget to actual basis. That's not likely to catch up in December. So it'll be a little behind budget, but overall still pretty good considering what's happened. Right above that is property tax. We did get our big second chunk of property tax from the county, which brings us right up about where we should be. I think we'll see enough property tax trickle in December to get us really close to that budget. Public safety sales tax, this is the one that we just started collecting in 2024. We've now got nearly a full year and we're over $1 million. We'll look at this in a minute, but the budget for that was $940,000. So this one is above budget, which is great. B&O tax has been doing pretty good most of the time. Since we met last in September, we had a really bad looking October, but November made up for it. I don't think this is due to volatility. I think this is just a timing issue when businesses file their B&O tax returns. So overall, we're up $108,000 month over month and about a 3.5% increase. LTAC has been doing fantastic. I don't know that that's. I think this is due largely to the two new motels that are back open for business now that have been closed for a few years. But $43,000 on the tourism side of LTAC month over month increase, which is a 26% increase. So that's pretty amazing. Other general fund revenues, we talked about B&O, but on the budget to actual side of that, we've already exceeded the budget projection for B&O tax with 1 month to go still. So that's fantastic. Building permits are just off the charts, way beyond what we thought they would be. Most of the other revenues are keeping up, kind of right on track, or maybe they're behind a little bit for timing differences. Same here with some grants. The public safety sales tax we talked about, also over budget, which is good when we're talking about the revenue side. Miscellaneous revenues down a little bit, but I did run this report a week ago because of the holidays, and I took a day off, and had to start working on it. And so not all of the revenues are in this yet. At the same time, not all the expenses are either because there was still a week to go in the month. So, but looking good. If we look down at the total at the bottom, general fund overall, again, 91% through the year, through the end of November, and we're 91% of revenue collected. So again, given the economy, the uncertainties, the things that have happened this year, feeling pretty good about that. Okay, over on the expenditure side, every department you can see here is underspent in their budget so far. So that's a good thing for that. 91% through the year, and bottom total there, all the general fund departments combined, 76% spent.
Well, Councilmember Jefferson.
So my question is, I remember when we were in the Army, we were told, hey, you have this leftover money, hurry up, go spend. How does it work on the civilian side?
I tell people don't do that.
Okay.
Actually, that's not always true. It depends on the situation.
Mhm.
I actually remember shortly after I started here, it was COVID. You know, here's a computer, go work from home. And I remember sending an email to the management team saying, hey, all these supply chain shortages going on and things like that. So if you need something, order it now, because it might take a year to get here. If you wait another 6 months, it might not show up till the next budget cycle. So there's actually a time when I told people to hurry up and spend your money. But I don't believe in like, oh, it's the end of the year, hurry up and spend
Right.
all your money.
Okay.
Especially in a biennial budget, because we can carry that forward to the next year.
That's good to know. Thank you.
And it's not good to waste money just for the sake of spending it, which is what happens sometimes. Good. That was a good question. Thank you. So just about a 15% total at the bottom of this graphic here, 76% spent. So we're about 15% underspent. I do think that's going to that gap is going to close toward the end of the year because we do have the January 10th payroll, which gets accrued back to 2025. And typically there's quite a few expenses that kind of come in late in the year from contracts, purchases, things like that. So we may end up maybe 10% underspent for the year is what I'm estimating. Okay, away from the general fund and onto the business type funds. So this is similar to how we presented last time. So as a reminder, the top part of this graphic shows every revenue and every expense, including the capital projects, anticipated grant funding, debt revenue if we issue bonds, things like that. So that makes these numbers really high. On the bottom, what I did is pulled out the big capital projects. So an example of some of the capital projects in this budget include the big water storage tank out on 93rd. I think that's right. And the big public facilities center. So if we pull that out of these funds on the bottom, that lets us focus in a little more on the operating side of things by removing those really big numbers. So revenue looking pretty good. It's a little bit behind on the water fund here, but there's always timing differences between when somebody uses water, when they get billed for water, and then when they pay their water bill. So nothing I'm concerned about there. Expenses are pretty far behind. Sewer looks a little bit different. They're actually, and I'm focusing more on the bottom part of this. Revenue is already more than what we expected. That's due to a lot of connection fees and capital improvement charges, things like that. And then expenses are a little higher too, but kind of go in line with that extra revenue. Stormwater, that's looking a little funny because there's some grant things going on in there that I didn't pull out, but no concerns there. And golf, got some really good news for golf. This is kind of exciting. Chuck's still here. All right. So if you look at the lower part where we took out capital projects and also general fund support, the revenue budget has been exceeded already. So they've collected more revenue than they planned for the entire year, and we still have December to go. And that is as of November 30th, because what I started doing is just calling Tyler at the pro shop and saying, I need your revenue. And then expenses are far below what they budgeted as well. So just about at a break even there. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the economy overall and talk about some upsides and risks. On the upsides, I put tariffs because they haven't been making a lot of news lately, so that's kind of nice. We'll see what happens. I've heard there's some lawsuits going on, so that could stir things up. But for now, all is quiet, which is a good thing. The GDP we reported last time, Q2, was a 3% increase, which was great after having a negative number in the first quarter. However, Q3 has been delayed by the longest shutdown in U.S. government history. So we're missing some data there. On the risk side, unemployment is ticking up slowly, but it's gone from 4.1 in June up to 4.4 in September. And again, we don't know where it is in October because there's no data. Similar story with inflation, also creeping up from 2.4 in May up to 3% in September. And again, delayed data for October. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. We'll update you next time we meet and what they come up with for those numbers. This is a very similar slide to last time. Not much has changed here, thankfully. I just did want to point out that the little box in the lower left is a comment about these nonpartisan agencies that collect and report financial data. Very important. Those stay nonpartisan. Otherwise, investors may lose trust in U.S. data and markets. So we'll keep hoping for good news there. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, in case you hear this in the news, this is just more informational, but we're starting to hear about what they're calling the K-shaped economy. So a little bit of a story on this. this first kind of came about in the beginning of the pandemic as a way to describe the difference between blue collar and white collar workers. When the pandemic hit and they said, close everything down and send everybody home, white collar workers were able to take a laptop or their personal computer and go home and work and keep their livelihood. A lot of blue collar workers weren't able to do that. They were either unemployed or forced onto public assistance. So that's kind of where that started, and then it didn't last too long, kind of went away. It's being brought back now as a theory, and you can see the kind of the shape of the blue line and the orange line towards the right, how they kind of make the two parts of the K. And so in this case now, it's being used to illustrate how certain industries or sectors have fared since the recession, or the pandemic and the short recession that followed. And as you can see there on the right, like software, retail, technology sector is doing great, expanding, lots of investment, lots of revenue. But travel, restaurants, hospitality, things like that have really failed to recover and are still struggling. And so kind of that divergence is part of what they're calling the K-shaped economy. They're also applying this to people.
Councilmember Dahlhoff has a question.
Yes.
Troy. Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm wondering with your noggin, and I see Ryan Reynolds here with the Tumwater Chamber, and I'm thinking when you see this, what conversations does staff have regarding how do we check in with the orange peeps, right? What does that look like in Tumwater? I know we have the economic development element in the comprehensive plan, but when you see this, do we think about what we could do to check in and see how the impact is in Tumwater with Tumwater businesses?
Yes, actually. I hadn't really studied this for very long, but I have started prior to this meeting and prior to each monthly meeting with the Budget and Finance Committee. I am doing a check-in with Jean Angel so we can talk about these kind of things and bounce ideas off each other and inform each other on things that we're seeing and ask questions.
I dig that. Thank you, Troy.
Okay, so this K-shaped economy, or K-shaped recovery, as they call it sometimes, is also kind of being applied in theory to individuals. The theory being that someone who's so at the beginning of the recovery, folks are maybe kind of at the same level as far as earnings and jobs and things like that, but those who may have been in a better financial position to begin with, maybe they already owned a home. Maybe they're a college graduate. They live in a certain part of the country that's more affluent than others. They're seeing their financial position increase over time. Whereas those who maybe were renters, weren't college grads, lived in less affluent areas of the country, are seeing their financial prospects and their financial position decline. So it's kind of demonstrating that people that maybe started around the same place a few years ago are now really diverging as far as where they sit economically. And there was a great article in the Associated Press that kind of described the economy right now as a little convoluted. And what they mean by that is, on one hand, we've got solid growth, but on the other hand, hiring is slowing and unemployment is rising. Usually those things kind of pair up and go together. Consumer spending is rising, but consumer confidence is down. So we're seeing these dichotomies. AI investment is going through the roof, but factories are laying off workers. The stock market's at a record or near record highs, but wage growth is slowing. And so we're seeing these things that usually kind of fit hand in hand that are now kind of at odds with each other. And Peter Atwater, who's the economist behind this, said it really well. Those at the bottom are living with the cumulative impacts of price inflation. At the same time, those at the top are benefiting from the cumulative impact of asset inflation. So again, causing that real divergence. And this is a little bit different, but still related. Right now in the economy, the higher wage earners tend to be supporting the economy at a disproportional rate than they normally would. It's typically the middle and lower income earners that are out spending all the money and really driving the economy. But right now that's off a little bit. And you can see by those lines, and it's a little messy, but they usually follow each other fairly close. But since July, you can see how they're really starting to split off. So it's just one more thing we'll keep an eye on that just kind of puts the economy in kind of an interesting position that we're not used to, where those higher earners are supporting the economy at a much higher level than normal. And with that, again, with those higher earners supporting the economy at a different rate or a different percentage, really isn't a sustainable model. We really need the economy to be working well for the middle and lower class to make it successful. Because if the bottom leg of that K falls off in this theory, the whole thing can topple over. So this is just informational. If you hear it in the news, you'll have heard of it. You'll know something about it, and we'll certainly keep an eye on all these data points and things going on, and hope they improve.
Councilmember Jefferson.
Thank you, Troy. Your slides really make it entertaining. So I appreciate your slides.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great. Any other questions? I think this is helpful because I think this is an aspect that we haven't been accustomed to seeing, and I think we need to pay close attention. So, yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, there was one on there, and
It's a little thing.
little things. Thank you, everybody.
Great. All right, next item is Council Position 1 selection process, and Karen, our attorney, will be presenting. Go ahead.
Good evening. I am here to seek your approval for the selection process schedule application and questions for the council position number 1 filling the vacancy process. We discussed this at the work session, and I'm happy to go into as much detail as you would like for me to do, or I can skip that altogether. And if you'd like to have a discussion about any of the changes, we can do that. Otherwise, we're seeking approval for the process and timeline that were presented in your packet.
Any discussion? And this takes a motion, correct, to move it forward?
Yes, this would just approve it so we can go out to the newspaper and the website and get the interview meeting scheduled and all of that.
I'll make a comment. I want to thank you for the questions that were added. So that I appreciate because we had talked about that, and so I do appreciate the ones that were added. And these are hard. I don't know that I would have been able to complete these. God, I'm not applying. No, but thank you for. I appreciate the questions.
Well, I hope we captured the comments. Okay.
Good.
I like it.
Great. I see consensus here, so I think we're good to go. So do we need a formal motion?
That would be great.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the selection process schedule and questions for council position number 1.
I'll second. Kelly Von Holtz.
It's been moved by Councilmember Von Holtz, seconded by Councilmember Dolhoff. Any discussion on the motion? All right, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item is council committee reports. And we will start off with Public Health and Safety, Councilmember Gabi.
Thank you, Mayor. I do believe that public and safety is next week. And on the agenda, I see T2 remodel update and Tacoma Community College affiliation agreement. Those are the 2 items on our agenda for next week.
Great, thank you. Next is General Government Committee, Councilmember Althauser.
Thank you, Mayor. The General Government Committee met on November 12th. I was actually excused from that meeting, so I do thank my committee members for hosting that meeting. Some of that fine work was on our agenda earlier tonight. We did have a meeting scheduled for December the 10th, next Wednesday, but that meeting has been canceled.
Okay, great.
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Kathy.
Thank you. As a member of the General Government Committee, since there's no report and Michael will not be present for any future general government meetings, I think he should tell us a little bit about how much he enjoyed being the chair of general government. Just kind of give us a general thumbs up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. I think if onlookers are looking for a taste, this is a small microcosm of what that experience has been like. Certainly appreciate the presence, candor, and humor of all my committee members who have been on service in the General Government Committee with me over the past couple of years. Particularly you, Councilmember Kathy, who I adore and have always considered to be a personal mentor. So thank you.
Thank you. See, that's what I was waiting for. You thought I was just trying to be disruptive. No. Thank you, Michael. The feeling is mutual, and I will personally say I'm going to miss you, not just on general government, but on the council. So God knows who will be given the next reports. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the time.
You bet. Next is Public Works Committee, Councilmember Swarthout.
Thank you, Mayor. And sorry, Councilmember Althauser, you still have to get up early on Thursday at 8 o'clock. On Thursday, December 4th, we have our Public Works meeting, and we will be covering the 2026 Sustainability Division Work Plan, Resolution number R 2025-018, 2026 fee schedule, and the I can't talk tonight. Service provider agreement with Mountain to Coast for on-call services amendment number 1.
Great, thank you. And Budget Finance Committee has not met, but we had a presentation to the council. So next we will go to the Mayor's City Administrator report and City Administrator parts.
Great, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. Just a couple of quick updates. So tonight there are going to be some rolling lane closures on Custer Way and E Street Southwest on Capitol Boulevard, on the Capitol Boulevard Bridge. We have a contractor who is out there collecting data about the bridge deck so that we can make some future maintenance decisions. That's happening in about 15 minutes until about 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. So hopefully we've reduced the impact to people by scheduling it in the nighttime such as that. Secondly, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, I believe, Santa is going to be visiting Tumwater Valley Municipal Golf Course. And the rumor has it that he's going to be arriving in one of the brand new golf carts. And then just as a reminder, we do have the Christmas tree lighting festival this Saturday from 1 to 5:30. It's also Tumwater High School is participating in a high school football championship. And I hear that we have anywhere from 40 to 55 youth basketball games also happening on Saturday. So lots going on. And a real testament to the work that our Parks and Rec staff does. And just briefly, I am leaving tomorrow morning on my vacation for warmer climates. I've coordinated with the management team on different tasks and how things are going to be getting done while I'm gone. Between Chief Hurley and Assistant City Administrator Adams, they will be sharing most of those duties. And I believe everything is being left in awesome hands. So that's all I have. And thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. For my report, I attended the ED's Economic Development Council meeting on November 19th. And at that, we had a presentation by Dr. Brownsberger, who is the president of St. Martin's University. So he did give a great presentation and talked a lot about other programs. We also reviewed the draft of the working document of the 2026 work plan and so we can create the budget moving forward. That was very lengthy. Thursday is the Innovation Expo conference, and that will be at the Great Wolf Lodge. I think you can probably go ahead and still go ahead and register for that. It'll be, I think, from like 7 o'clock in the morning until like 4:30 in the afternoon. There'll be lots of different breakouts. So anyone who's interested in going to that, I strongly encourage that. Also, reminder that our work session next Tuesday is a joint session with the Planning Commission, and we will meet at 6:30. The Planning Commission will have a public hearing at 6. We will be meeting together at 6:30. So just as a reminder. So with that, I will go to council member reports. Council member Kathy, I will start with you.
I have had no meetings, and so I have no report. My meetings for this month begin on Thursday.
Great. We'll hear from you then next meeting. Council member Von Holtz.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I have public health and safety at 8 a.m. next Tuesday. Intercity transit tomorrow, where I believe we will be voting on the reconfigured lines. On a week ago, Saturday, I attended the Fire and Ice basketball game over at Tumwater High School. Fire won. And they raised over $8,000 for Shop with the Cops. So it was a really awesome event to see the community come out and police and firefighters having fun on the court. My husband called Sheriff Sanders a ball hog. We didn't get pulled over on the way home, so I think we're good. But it was just a really great event, and it was so nice to see so many local Tumwater peeps there cheering on our public safety reps. That's it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Jefferson.
Mayor, I had no meeting, but I did have an event that I would like to brief you on because I represented the city at this solemn occasion. And the occasion was Transgender Remembrance Day, located at Church of the Good Shepherd, 7 November. And I spoke, Carolyn Cox spoke from the city of Lacey, and Councilmember Clark Gilman spoke from the city of Olympia. Now, it was a memorial service. So I brought my Army Stetson because we used to wear this Stetson when I was in the Army for special events and for memorial services. So I wanted them to know that it was a solemn occasion, and I gave them the reason why I wore my Stetson. And I'd like to read a portion of the speech, Mayor, if I can, for the record. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. This is a solemn moment, but I also want it to be a moment of motivation, strength, and hope. Therefore, the title of my message tonight is Love and Hope Will Always Overcome Hate. This is not just my personal belief. It is a commitment. It is also a call to action for all of us working hard to move our society to a better place. Now, the organizers wanted to know what we at the city are specifically doing for our transgender community. So I told them this year, the city of Tumwater took historic steps towards this commitment. We passed an anti-hate resolution. This is a law which states that the city council and mayor reject harassment, discrimination, violence, and hate crimes based on race, ethnicity, gender identity, and sexual orientation. We believe in civil rights and equality for all people. Recently, we followed Olympia and Lacey and passed another law to establish a racial equity committee so that our city policies, practices reflect the diversity and dignity of every resident who live or work in Tumwater. The spirit of justice, acceptance, equality, and belonging is not new to Tumwater. We were founded on these values, and it is who we are and who we have always been. Here's a little history lesson on Tumwater you might not know. Tumwater is known as Washington's first city, the first American settlement founded in 1845 by George Bush, a free Black pioneer, and his friend Michael T. Simmons, a white man. When their wagon train traveling from the Midwest reached Oregon, laws at that time barred Black settlers from owning land or even living in Oregon. So they turned north, crossed the Columbia River, and finally, after 1 year, stopped in Newmarket, later to be named Tumwater, Washington. They settled less than 1 mile from our current location, where they finally found freedom and built a community grounded in love and acceptance for their friend, a Black man married to a white woman named Isabella Bush. George Bush was an unselfish man. He welcomed, fed, and hosted many people on his 90-acre farm. One was Isaac Ingalls Stevens, the first territorial governor of Washington Territories, later named Washington State on November 11th, 1889. Think about this for 1 second. The founders of our community and Washington State chose love over hate, freedom over bondage, inclusion over exclusion, and courage over fear. Tonight, we continue that same legacy as we stand with our transgender family, friends, and neighbors to say, you are loved and you belong here. Stand strong and stand proud. Do not live or hide in fear. The leaders of the cities represented here today care deeply about your freedom and everybody else's. We know that our work for freedom and equality is hard and not close to being done. Across this nation, too many transgender people still face violence, rejection, and outright hate because of who they are and how they chose to live and present themselves. I closed it out by letting them know that there's things that they can do, like volunteer in our local city governments by joining committees and boards. We are always looking for people. Why not you? Run for school boards and attend school board meetings. Speak up and ask them to create policies and rules to stop bullying and assaults in school. It was deep. And my PTSD was present because the faces on the screen, 100 young people dying of violence, drug abuse, homelessness, and I just wanted to give them hope that we at the City of Tumwater do care. With that, I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mayor, I'd like to thank Angela for representing us and for being bold and clear and passionate and very articulate about what's happening and where we are and where we're trying to be as a city. Angela, thank you. Thank you very much. I feel emotional about what you did and all of those who heard you. And I'm glad that you put that in the record, because I hope people who are looking for things in years to come will read what was spoken at this council meeting. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Agabi? I know that was a tough one to follow. I wouldn't want to do it.
Well, I could try. So on Monday, I have Joint Animal Services Commission meeting. On Tuesday, I have Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. And on Wednesday, I have the TPP Transportation Board meeting. And on Thursday, Disability Board. And for the fun, on Saturday, I was approached by the Salvation Army wanting me to come to, as a city council member, in that capacity, to come to the Tumwater Walmart on Saturday volunteer to ring a bell, the red bell.
Mhm.
I'll be wearing a red apron and no hat. And I'm going to be doing that with
Wait, you
my.
want us to come see? Is that
What? You could join me? Yeah.
Where are you at?
At the Tumwater Walmart.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to be at the dock going to the grocery.
Right.
So, and this is going to be from 1 to 5, so 5 hours.
Very good.
So, oh, ho, ho.
Thank you. Councilmember Doha.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to come see you. I have Thurston County 911 communications tomorrow. I have public health and safety next week and a lot next week. And that is it.
Thank you. Councilmember Althauser.
Thank you, Mayor. My committees have not met since our last council meeting, but I will be attending the Regional Housing Council a week from tomorrow.
Councilmember Swarthout.
And same with me. I haven't had any meetings, but I will be attending the TRPC meeting this Friday where we get to meet our new director.
Great. All right. So that's everything on our agenda this evening. So with no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you.